There is no doubt that the student body at Harvard leans left, that the professors at Harvard lean left. I'm sure the administration at Harvard leans left. That doesn't mean you can take away their tax-exempt status. No one cares that Harvard, with its billions in endowment, is being targeted by Donald Trump, right? The only reason you ought to care is because he's not allowed to do it. The president is literally not allowed to target a tax-exempt entity and isn't allowed to be the one making that sort of decision. That's why this should matter to you, because I care about the rule of law, because I care when I describe myself as law and order and pro-police and pro-law enforcement. I care about laws being abided by, right? So today, Trump puts out on Truth Social, we're going to be taking away Harvard's tax-exempt status. It's what they deserve, all right? So let's take a little step back, right? And let's talk about tax exemption, right? It's granted basically by the IRS to different groups who meet like a series of requirements and criteria by the IRS in a code section called 501c, all right? The groups are charitable, they're, churches, it's religious, it's political, it's other nonprofits, right? Now, the whole point of exempting nonprofits is that the government recognizes the value of their work, right? That it ensures that more of their resources can go to the serving like good things for the public rather than paying taxes. And 501c3, charitable nonprofits, generally don't have to pay income or property taxes, and donations are deductible. Okay. Now, nonprofits are not necessarily exempt from all taxes, but that's sort of, that's not the main point here. Here's the main point, right? The main point is that the president does not have the authority to revoke an organization's tax-exempt status, all right? By law, the president is literally prohibited from directly or indirectly influencing tax decisions. Federal law, 26 U.S. Code 7217, makes it illegal for the president, the vice president, any employee of the president or the vice president to, quote, request directly or indirectly any officer or employee of the Internal Revenue Service to conduct an audit or otherwise to investigate a taxpayer. And in fact, the law says that any person who does it willfully can be imprisoned for up to 5 years. So any executive order basically trying to revoke tax-exempt status doesn't have legal standing, all right? The IRS is required to then go through a sort of administrative procedure to try to revoke it, right? And it would basically require a finding that the organization is no longer, educational or charitable within the definition of the law. But it's violated prohibitions on partisan activities, has business activities, is being run for the benefit of particular people, et cetera. And the argument that, oh, well, Harvard is now engaging in partisan activity just doesn't fly. The bottom line is that this administration sent Harvard a list of ridiculous demands to basically control what they do. They're not allowed to do that. But most importantly, does anyone actually believe that Harvard did this on its own. Sorry, that the IRS did this on its own? I mean, that's the claim, right? The White House has said in a statement, they said this to ABC News, any forthcoming actions by the IRS will be conducted independently of the president. And investigations into any institution's violations of its tax status were initiated prior to the president's Truth Social comments. Does anyone believe this? Oh, it just happens that the IRS started investigating Harvard. And then President Trump started making comments about it. Trump put out a post on April 15th that said perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired supporting sickness. Remember, tax-exempt is totally contingent upon acting in the public interest. He doesn't get to decide whether he likes the fact that Harvard, and by the way, there is no doubt that the student body at Harvard leans left, that the professors at Harvard lean left. I'm sure the administration at Harvard leans left. That doesn't mean you can take away their tax-exempt status. And by the way, the whole thing about the anti-Semitism, oh, please, does anyone actually believe that's why he's targeting Harvard? Oh, it's to protect against anti-Semitism. Oh, please. Now, I am someone who was very critical of what was happening at these universities and still is. I supported Columbia sending the police in to arrest the hooligans who were trying to disrupt classes there, some of whom I do believe were anti-Semitic. But that is a total ruse if you believe that's why the administration is targeting Harvard. And by the way, they're also talking about taking away federal funds from medical research that has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. I don't care. This isn't for me about Harvard. It's about the fact that what he is doing is not permitted under the law. That's what I care about. It's the similar point to one I was making to Congressman Hageman yesterday, basically saying, look, you agree, disagree with what's happening with Abrego Garcia, you still got to abide by the Supreme Court. It is the rule of law.